Hello and welcome back to the FSF Podcast. I am Tim. I am the host of this here nerd show, and I am glad to have you in the nerdery here with me tonight. Now, our guest tonight, I'm very excited to talk to, and I'm going to introduce our guest by the intentional theft of portions of her bio from her own website, because sometimes you just can't write things like they do, and I'm like, why should I write it when they already have something really good? So just for all intents and purposes, this is a very subtle plagiarism, and yeah, so there's hopefully they will forgive me, but here it goes. It says and I'm reading this in her words. So it says, I started out this life as I intended to. A huge nerd memorizing the Oxford English Dictionary after school with 1 million questions about life and a book in my hand. I spent my free time recording a podcast about breakfast foods and Bette Midler on a Fisher-Price tape player. Now we're going to skip down a couple paragraphs. She is now a Hollywood-based, Ambie-nominated, and Voice Arts Award-nominated voice actress and audiobook narrator for HarperCollins, Bloomsbury, Penguin Random House, SJP Lit Zando, Scholastic, and the Library of Congress. Her commercial, animation, and narration clients span the globe, just like her heart. I am very excited to welcome Jordan Claire McCraw to the FSF Podcast. Welcome to the show, Jordan.
Hi, Tim. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Hope you don't mind me stealing from your website, but I was like, this is perfect. I shouldn't have to write anything. That's great. So
yeah, you should be an audiobook narrator. That sounded better when you orated it. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Actually, I've always wanted to read books and do things along those lines. I'm the type of guy. As a kid, I was a big reader.
Yeah.
I read everything I get my hands on, and then at a certain point in life, I was like, "Wait, you mean they'll read it to me?"
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. And then after a certain point, I was like, that might actually be fun to try and do. But anyway, that's another topic for another time. Let's talk about you, not about me. So yeah. So Jordan, one of the first things I love to do with every single guest that comes on the show is I want to know your origin story. Now, it's important to me because I like to know why people do what they do, what makes them tick, what got them to be the person that's sitting across the virtual table from me. So in the story of Jordan, what got you interested in being a voice actor and narrator and just generally awesome person?
Thanks, Tim. Do you remember popcorn reading in elementary school? Did you do that in the 80s
I
and
don't
90s? Or the
I don't know if
40s?
I
No, I'm kidding.
you didn't she
Right in there with a dad joke in the first 5 minutes. Sorry.
That's right. Yeah, making jokes about my beard. Okay. No, actually I don't remember popcorn reading.
Okay, so popcorn, it stands out in my memory because it's my
Okay.
particular brand of dork, right? So,
Nice.
but I don't remember geometry. So, popcorn
Fair
reading
enough.
popcorn reading in elementary school was when they would go around the class and everybody would read like a paragraph or 3 sentences and then they would go to the next person. And
Oh. Okay.
yeah.
We didn't call it popcorn reading, so that's why I didn't know it was okay.
Did you not call it popcorn reading in Michigan?
No,
Or
no.
or
I don't remember
where
what
did
we
you grow
called it.
up?
I've always lived in Michigan, so
Always lived in Michigan. Yeah.
right about
Well,
here.
oh, yes. Well, I was in Maryland at the time.
Okay.
And and yeah, so popcorn reading, I just remember I was jumping out of my skin with excitement to be the person who would get to read her 3 sentences or whatever. And then they would move on to the next kid in the 2nd grade, and I would just be devastated. And it was the one thing that brought me to life, and I didn't actually know that this was a career. I knew that I heard people doing commercials on the radio, and I would pretend to do my own commercials on the radio. As you said, on my Fisher-Price tape player, I had no concept of this being an industry. All I knew is I
Okay.
loved to read, I loved to write, and I loved theater, and I wanted to act. And actually, I think what I enjoyed most was standing up in front of everyone and orating a piece of writing. That was just the thing I was most passionate about, was sort of obviously, I didn't have words for this in the freaking 2nd
Right,
grade,
right.
but just channeling someone else's writing like a composition of music. That
Okay.
was kind of like just such a passion that I had. It lit me up. And I couldn't tie my shoes worth a damn, but I loved doing that. And as I got older, this sort of binary of English literature, English language, and theater continued. I ended up getting degrees in both, and
Mhm.
then moving to England and teaching both for a very long time. And it was actually when I was in England, it was 10 years as an educator, very nearly. And a lot of my students actually struggled to read and write. And I would make
Hmm.
audiobooks for them because they couldn't read the
Oh,
homework.
neat.
So, and this was back with CDs, so I would record MP3s of Mice and Men and send them home with the
Oh,
kids
and
so
then
that
burn
they
them
could
onto a
prep.
disc for them.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
still didn't know it was an industry. And this was in my 20s. I thought, "Oh, I wanted to be an actor." And I didn't get to because I was in England, I was on a visa, I needed to work. So, I needed
Right.
consistent employment, so I taught what I love instead. It wasn't
Mhm.
until I got to the end of my 20s, Tim, that my students, when I was leaving to go on maternity leave, and in England, you get a year's maternity leave. And,
Oh,
I
wow.
was leaving and my students were saying, "Don't come back, miss. Go read your poems on the radio, miss." Like, "We don't wanna hear that shit, miss." And it was, you know, like, they were my inspiration. I thought, "Okay, I've got a year. I'm gonna see if I can
Yeah.
read my stupid poems on the radio or whatever that looks like." And I ended up Googling to figure out what the voiceover industry even was. I ended up becoming a voiceover actor, doing American voices in London, transitioned to the New York market and the Library of Congress, and then eventually made my way out west to California. And I'm working in Hollywood now. So it's kind of been like this intuitive journey that at no point did I know what the destination was other than
Mhm.
I was doing this thing that everyone else thought was weird, and I couldn't find anything else I loved more. And
I
eventually it
love
started to
that.
take shape.
Yeah, I love that. I love the fact that you were doing it, like you said, just kind of intuitively, that this was just part of who you were, what you were, and that was like, just I'm doing this because I'm enjoying it because there wasn't money attached to it at that point. You were, I it's just, the part of who and what you are. So I think that's I always like it when somebody's story is there because it's part of their drive of who and what they were. And I think that that's, if I'm catching on, I think that that's pretty much what we have here is that it was a drive, even if it wasn't on the surface at the moment.
Thank you. Yeah, Tim, I think I also have this subconscious. I don't know if it's karmic. I don't know what it is. I have this passion about unsilencing. And
Hmm.
it's very interesting because I come from a bloodline of women who were very silenced historically.
Okay.
And like dating all the way back to my 10th great grandmother was Susanna Martin, the character Goody Martin in The Crucible, who was accused by Abigail Williams.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and I didn't know that until much more recently in my life, but from the moment I was born, if I had a thought, I felt it was very important that everyone hear it with as many histrionics as possible. And I don't know if this Susanna Martin thing just gives me an excuse to be a jerk, but I'm like, "We're finally heard, ladies," as I'm like shouting some inanity from a rooftop.
I love it. You and my daughter might be related. Um,
Is she a Gemini?
I have no idea. Actually, I've never gotten into the whole astrology thing, so I don't know who. I have no idea. Like I couldn't tell you where I am. I couldn't tell you what anybody else is. All I know is that my daughter feels very strongly that if she needs to be heard about something, she's gonna be heard. That now part of that is because she's my daughter, and I'm a very outspoken person. And I'm always believed that um, I would rather because I don't like having to guess what you're thinking, what you're feeling. So I'd
Yeah.
rather have somebody just tell me up front because I joke around with my wife, we've been married for 27 years. I'm like, I love you dearly, but I need you to know I still can't read your mind. So
Mm.
if you could just come out and tell me, and even if it's you think I'm the stupidest person, drawing oxygen on the face of the earth, please just break it out the crayons if you have to, and tell me. And my daughter has grabbed right onto that. She is. She has no problem dressing somebody down if they're stupid, but she also has no problem, building somebody up if they're trying and they're working towards something, and so it's kind of fun to watch.
Well, you know what they say, girls with big love have big feelings. So it sounds like she's another goddess in the making, your child.
I like to think so.
Good trouble.
Yeah, she is good trouble. She's a very kind and considerate girl and young lady, a woman. I have to say she's graduated high school. I have to start calling her a woman. She's 18. She's an adult. But I just which is kind of a hard thing for me because she's my baby. But
Mhm.
but yeah, so she's very much good trouble, and I wouldn't know what to do with her if it was any other way. So I'll take it very
That's awesome.
happily.
That will
So
bode her well.
yeah, it's kind of funny. We were joking around the other night. My wife and I were just laying in bed talking, and we call her Jesus because she likes to come and be in the middle of us. So and
So on point.
yeah, so yeah, we had to make room for Jesus, and Jesus was late. We're talking, and she was talking about one of her girlfriends who has had a boyfriend that she did not approve of, and she let her girlfriend know that this guy was a jerk, and there was this and all these other things, and I'm like, I said something to the I don't remember exactly what I said. Something to the effect of, "Wow, I didn't realize that I had raised you so jaded." She goes, "No, you raised me with standards. There's a difference." And I was
Oh,
like, "Oh, okay, well that I can handle. I can live with that."
that's a good
So,
dad compliment.
yeah, I'll take it. I'll
That's a
take
good
it.
review. 5 stars on
Yeah,
Yelp.
right?
Yeah.
Yay. All right, so Jordan, let's talk a little bit more about the work that you do. Now, I get that on the surface, work is work, right? It all
Mhm.
pays the bills. It allows you to do the things you want to do, to travel, to you know, live life as to the fullest as you're able. But you have experience as a voice actor, a book narrator. You've done commercial voiceover and some other things. Do you have a personal preference over one style or one format over the other? And if so, why?
That's such an interesting question, Tim. Okay, so 2 categories. There's one thing that I think comes most easily, and I
Okay.
love it and I love it for that. And then there's one thing that's the greatest challenge and is the most exhilarating, and I love it for that. So, if
Okay. Fair enough.
if we're coasting with our eyes closed and we want an easy day, the thing I love most is audiobook narration.
Okay.
And I don't know why. I just think that it is if another artist has already created sort of this maze for you and you're just like the marble going down the maze, right?
Hmm.
It's very I find it very soothing. I find it very relaxing. I find it very meditative to just sort of I described it earlier as like a composition of music to
Right.
and sort of wax and wane with the energies of what this author has already done. And it's wonderful to channel and bring their art into to life, kind of. I
Hmm.
find that very, very cathartic and very therapeutic. But then also it's like the music's already been written, so there's a joy in just kind of being the last missing piece. And you're not in all stages of the creation of the product. And, so it's kind of the easier of the jobs that I do in that a lot of the masterful work has already been done by the time it hits my desk, and then I just have the pleasure of vocalizing it. Um, the thing that I find the most exhilarating challenge, like, I just am obsessed. I cannot get enough of it. It is my favorite thing on the planet is animation.
Okay.
And and it's not that you're always involved in all stages of the creative process in animation, Tim, but sometimes you get lucky and you work with a team who are actually very collaborative and they come to you with a script and they have an idea of what they want the character to be, but they're open to your influence and you can kind of spitball and work together and if you're lucky, you have some of the people who helped create it in the room with you while you're doing the oration, and so it's sort of a very collaborative process, whereas the audiobook narration, I'm sort of on the back end and I sort of do that alone. I do it solo,
Mhm.
with an engineer, but I've not got other creatives in the space. With animation, it's truly a team project, and I
Sure.
love the challenge, and this is the theater person in me. I love the challenge in animation of being outrageous. And, particularly as, like a millennial good girl who was always taught to sort of temper her interpretations of things to make everyone else comfortable,
Okay.
animation demands that you're insane.
Oh,
And
yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it like deprograms all the gnarliness that was built up around my authentic insanity.
Love
And
it.
yeah, it's like I can finally rediscover my unhinged inner child when I'm doing that work. And it's a challenge, but it's one that is so fun. And that is my most favorite thing in the world, I think. And when, the strikes happened and everything else, I was just so grateful that I was able to do Archer before
Mhm.
the writer's strikes. I was in the studio doing Archer, I think it was just like a couple weeks before the writer's strikes kicked off.
Oh,
And
boy.
I was so thankful that I managed to get that in the bag before Hollywood tipped on its head because even that experience was so fulsome and so joyful as a collaboration that it has kind of carried me through this awkward interval in the industry. And yeah, I can't wait for another one.
All right.
It's the best feeling in the world. The
All
world.
right. I've had a couple other people, talk about animation voice work in a very similar, style, what you just said, because they said, they may even be quiet or more reserved people, but once they get in the booth, they're allowed to be loud and boisterous and let all their inhibitions just kind of go, and just because that's what's needed for some of the characters, especially, if you're playing a boisterous character who, it's not going to be fun if somebody's got to scream and you're just like, yeah, that was fun, you know. So getting there to the point where they are letting themselves go and being that person. So I've actually heard that a couple different times, that it allows them to exercise the demons a little bit,
Yes. Let those demons out. And I think that's why voiceover as an industry attracts so many classically trained thespians because if you're a theater person, you have this pathological desire to consume a space with emotion, right? I
Right.
I had a stint in TV and film in my 30s in New York when I went via New York to get out here. And Tim, I dropped that potato as fast as I possibly could because as much as it was a very valuable challenge, and I
Hmm.
do love being on camera because I'm a brat. I find it fun. But, they had and my TV and film coach who was phenomenal in Manhattan, Penny Templeton.
Hmm.
She also coaches for stage. Penny was an angel, and she taught me the value of what I do by teaching me the what I needed to do for TV and film, which is the opposite, which is the inner football field. Penny talked a lot about the inner football field and how you have to bring all of that emotion in on TV and on film. And when you're on screen, you have to convey all of that in very small ways. And that
Oh,
is really
yeah.
the gift of TV and film is how much can you show with the least amount of um not exuberance, that's not the right word, but you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, yeah.
doing the most with the least. That's part of that craft. And learning that craft really taught me the value of now being able to let loose because I think I would have taken for granted how a thespian sees the world, how somebody who was trained on the stage sees the world,
Hmm.
and having had tried to get to the point of mastery with TV and film, I don't know that anyone ever gets there, but I tried. I tried to really understand that art form. It made me realize, okay, this is a very special craft to do what they do on TV and film, and I'm excited by the challenge, but actually, I miss just being a mess. And
Hmm.
I just wanna be a loosey-goosey theater nerd, running around a soundstage being gross. And it really helped clarify for me where my purpose and my place in this industry is I was not created to be microscopic. I'm a bull in a china shop. Let's lean in. That's
Hey,
a big
it's
thing
awesome that you
from a
know it.
that's a big thing for a millennial woman, oldest daughter to confess.
No, I think
Like,
that's great. I think it's great that you recognize it and you're willing and able to lean into it. I think that's fantastic.
oh, thanks, Tim. Thank you for being the one person in society who who is a proponent of me being my fullest self.
Yeah, but if you hadn't been your fullest self, would you be where you are now? Would you have gotten the jobs that you had gotten? Chances are
No,
probably not.
no. And actually, in college, I was on a full scholarship for acting, Tim, and I was worried I was gonna lose my scholarship because I was very repressed. At the time, I came from a very, repressed puritanical family, read The Crucible, and, I really was not in touch with my feelings at all, and
Okay.
I had a professor haul me in halfway through freshman year, and they said, "You're gonna fail this class if you don't get messy," and I actually credit my theater training for saving my life in terms of just really stripping down the false architecture of appearing, the way other people want you to appear. I think my theater training made it necessary for me to do shadow work or, all these new wave spiritual concepts. I kind of had to do that just to keep my scholarship in college. I had to get very
Okay.
comfortable with my messy. And yeah, it's like I think that's why they sometimes say, if you're really doing art as a living, it's actually kind of a spiritual calling in some ways because you've got to learn how to get out of your own way
Mhm.
and channel and what you're doing and you got to kind of leave your bags at the door, but to do that you've got to know what your baggage is, and so it's definitely like a holistic lifestyle, doing this and sticking with it and then not going insane when, for example, Hollywood disappears. This job was hard before, but
Right,
then
yeah.
Hollywood ceased to exist. That
Mhm.
was a whole other level of the video game for a minute.
Right, right.
You gotta get I got into my Buddhism, Tim. I was down in Malibu clacking seashells together. I was like, "If there are any mermaids out there, come find me. I Take me back."
Oh, no, I love it, though. I think you're for me, there's a lot of similarities in what you're talking about, and what I do here and things that I've gone through in my own life, and I'm like and I think and I've never classified it as finding my messy, but I think that that's a pretty appropriate description of it because there were things that were in my own way too where, 5 years ago, I would not be sitting down in front of you talking with you about this type of thing or anything because, um, I was not that I was ever really a reserved person, but there was just certain things I didn't think that people talked about.
Mm,
And,
mhm.
you know, um, and I just thought that those were Tim topics, and Tim just took on those topics on his own. And um so yeah, just needed one good chronic illness for my daughter and a buttload of therapy, and ta-da, here I am.
You know
You
what?
know?
Nothing like an ego death, and I'm sorry to hear about your daughter.
Mm. Yeah.
It was also illness in my life, and you know what's weird? I hate to say it, but do you think that this is where social media has been really catalyzing? Because I feel like I thought that all these conversations were in my own head too. Like I had a stress-related illness about 5 years ago.
Okay.
Once Instagram, and I healed it, but once Instagram kind of got bigger and got
Mhm.
more prevalent in my life, suddenly, I don't know what the algorithm picked up on me, but there were communities talking about the things that I had experienced
Yeah.
alone, like
Yeah.
6, 7, 8 years ago, and it's like suddenly the people are starting to find one another and realize that you're a part of a collective experience, if you're going through something dark in ways that previously we did
Right.
not have those ways of syncing up, particularly if what you're going through is isolating.
Mhm.
Have you noticed that kind of like
Oh, yeah.
these communities are now forming? It's really cool.
Yeah, it is. So when my daughter was diagnosed with a condition called Guillain-Barré syndrome. And
Okay.
she's had that for the last 6 years, and it's something she'll have the rest of her life. But, so coming out of that, dealing with a whole lot of other, mental health issues for myself and,
Mhm.
a lot of really fun abandonment issues from my natural father and, all that type of fun, happy horse jazz. I was my head was a bag of cats, and so but it was funny though because precisely what you're talking about there. We were sharing some of this stuff on a daily basis. What was going on with Kendall out on Instagram and Facebook and all these things. And yeah, and all of a sudden the algorithm was like, this guy needs friends. Okay, so we're gonna put
Ah.
this. Here's this group, and here's that group, and here's this, and here's that. And all of a sudden, I was finding people who had either dealt with Guillain-Barré themselves or were helping family members through it, and had pretty aggressive cases like Kendall's. And then other ways of dealing with this and then after that, the very first podcast I ran was a podcast called Focused on Forward, where
Mm.
we was talking about dealing with issues that you have on a day-to-day basis. And I was talking to people who were cancer survivors and a gentleman who grew up in Poland in the 40s, and he was in the 1940s, and he was a Holocaust survivor, and all these things that people had gone through in their lives. But we were talking about how they were moving forward with this knowledge of what has happened to them in their life and the all these different things. And so it in a lot of ways it was very cheap therapy for me because I'm like, they're talking about, oh, I tried this and I tried that, and I'm over here taking notes. Oh, so you did that
Mhm.
worked. Okay, okay, good. And I would go try that out. um but yeah, I went from all of that into launching into a nerd space, because that was, although I really enjoyed talking to people about that, this is kind of where my heart is. And I was like, you know what, I can kind of marry the two. So we talk, when I talk to people, it's not uncommon that I talk about my daughter and what's happened over the last 6 years. And my wife for the last year has been dealing with epilepsy and working
I'm
through
so
that.
sorry.
And yeah, so but it's kind of an interesting thing that 6 years ago, I would not have been able to find my messy. I wouldn't have been able to identify it. I wouldn't have been able to move past it, and all those things that I think that were, things that, oh, that's stuff other people do. Are some of the things that I'm able to find myself doing now because I allowed myself to get out of my own way. And I think that's a big lesson that people have to learn. And I'm hoping that these younger generations, and they seem to be a little bit more intuitive about some of these things than my Gen X brethren. But I'm hoping that they're able to navigate those waters a little easier and a little clearer than what we had to go through.
Well, I hope the kids that we're raising are being raised by parents who are actively doing that work, and I think that makes a big difference
Oh, for sure.
if they see us vulnerably deconstructing. I mean, that models that imperfection is actually human. And
Hmm.
how is your daughter doing now? Is she
As
stable?
Yeah, as good. She is the so she's has a specialist that she'll see until he retires. But he said that she's at about 75 or 80% recovery, and that's about as max as she's ever going to get. But you know what? That 75-80% allows her, when she's feeling good, to have days where she's an 18-year-old girl and she goes and has her crazy and has her fun and does her thing. And then she comes home and sleeps for 3 days because her body wears out really fast. So I'm like, hey, you know what? I'd rather you go do the fun and then come home and sleep for 3 days than avoid the fun and sit there wishing that you had gone and done it.
You're a good dad. And, it's very interesting. I don't mean to pivot this back to myself, but I think it's really funny
Please.
because I did not even know, Tim, that thing about your father. And do you find that that informs your parenting? Because,
Very much so.
yeah, I think you know the value of being a safe space for your daughter to land.
Oh,
And
yeah.
and it's very interesting because It's we didn't even know this before this podcast. We hadn't talked about it, but I was abandoned by my mom,
Hmm.
and it has informed how I do everything. And she was the initiator of the conversation that I was too much, and I was
Aha.
not. Yeah, I was not. In retrospect, I'm too much now. It's after many years of careful creation of my too muchness. Now I am finally crowned too much, but I look back on what she found to be too much, and
Right.
it was, I think, just anorexic. Um, you
Aha.
know, oh,
Yeah.
we love a boomer parent. Regardless, I I do think it's very interesting that these communities have helped us process
Right.
our grief to the point where then we end up coming. I mean, you say you make this podcast for nerds to converge your interests, but actually, and I'm a total nerd doing my nerd thing, but I think really honoring our inner child and returning to creating something that gives us joy is the only um, the only possible purpose of that kind of pain,
Yeah.
and particularly in a world right now, which I will not get into, I think it's really amazing. I think if everybody could just turn their light on, I wonder how the vibration of the planet might go up and what might heal itself, and
Yeah.
sometimes
No,
all we can do is turn on our own light, man, and
you know what? I saw a post yesterday from somebody where somebody was trying to crap on somebody's parade. These fine folks
ew.
had just gotten engaged. They're planning their wedding. They're so excited and they're so happy. And I was like, and yeah, and there was a pretty nasty comment that was left. And I was like, you know what? The world's on fire.
Mhm.
Spread happiness. Spread
Right.
happiness. Be happy.
Mm.
Be if that's what's bringing you joy, post that every 5 minutes if you have to. If that's what's bringing you joy,
Yes.
because screw them. Have fun.
Well, and I had a girlfriend who is very socially conscious, who's an educator, who said to me the other day, she said, I'm planning a trip to Disney World for my kids, and I feel bad. She's like, I'm looking at what's happening in Gaza and, I'm all over the world. She said, I feel bad. And we had a very long conversation. I sent her all of my Buddhist materials,
Mhm.
Tim. I was like, ooh, am I prepared for a conversation about pain? Here are all the books you need to read. She'll never reach out to me again. But I was talking to her a lot about the
Mhm.
value of, you know, understanding that as pain is a condition of life, when you learn to live with your own pain, you come to accept that um actually the best use for pain is that it's a catalyst for truth and joyful expression, and that is the
Mhm.
greatest contribution we can make. And some of the most joyful people I have known who have made the biggest impact on my life have been doing have that. I mean, they've not been doctors, although I love a doctor. We love a laying on of hands. They've actually been people doing something very silly. I'll never forget the Eddie Izzard stand-up special on Netflix
Love him.
that oh my gosh. I was in a car accident in England in my early 20s, and I discovered Eddie Izzard when I was concussed, and I was concussed for about 6 months. I don't remember it, but my husband says I watched that Eddie Izzard special every day for 6 months because I had
Love
no
it.
memory of watching it the day before, and every day I was, like, pissing myself laughing, and he was going insane. He's a
Oh,
but
I'm sure. Yeah.
I was incapacitated, so he couldn't be angry, and he's English, so it was very conflicting, but I like, Eddie Izzard did more to heal my soul with his
Oh, I love
comments
that.
about the English throwing ice cream at the Germans in World War II, then, it's I think the value of silliness and art, and that's how I justify it. Would I like to cure
I
cancer?
like it.
Yes. But
Absolutely.
why do I feel like I got put here on earth? Maybe to make people laugh, maybe to make people smile, maybe to alchemize some of my own
Mhm.
shit into making art that's accessible to people who have been through pain. I just think that
Absolutely.
we just gotta get through, we gotta keep smiling, we've gotta somehow open up the pathways to give and
Oh,
receive,
for
and
sure. Yeah. We've all got different gifts. Some of us aren't good at math, and curing cancer is heavily dependent upon math. So that's not
yeah,
me.
yeah,
Um,
not
but
me, not me.
but I can crack a joke and hopefully make you think that, maybe this evening won't be as bad as, the rest of your day was, or maybe I can bring a little sunshine into your life. Talking nerd things with you.
Aw, Tim,
Uh,
you're bringing sunshine into my life today.
yay!
Score.
Yay, me. So on an Eddie note, real quick for you. Have you ever heard his bit about the Death Star Cantina?
No.
Please go watch that. I to this day, I nearly piss myself every time. Every single time.
Okay, I will.
It's fantastic. It's all about, yeah, it's all about the Death Star for Star Wars. And yeah,
I
that's the
will.
very first thing I ever heard from Eddie. And I was like, I have to hear more of this guy because I'm a huge Star Wars fan at heart.
Mhm.
That's where my nerd flag flies. And that's
I am
what got me
aware.
into of all these other Star Wars got me into all these other universes. And yeah, because there's a Star Wars watch and I'm wearing a Han Solo shirt. And yeah. But anyway,
Well done. Can I see
yay
that
me.
watch again? Show me that watch again.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see it
That's
very well.
amazing.
It's the X-Wing fighter uh shooting screen, where the thing comes in. Boop, 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 boop,
Does it
use the
work?
force, Luke. No, it just sits still. It just tells me time. I
I
gotta
love
find one
that
that
for
works.
you. Yes, you need one that really does that.
Right. And
And
like
when
when
you
the alarm
find
goes
it,
off, use the
tell me.
force, Luke.
I love it.
So all right. So Jordan, I can't let this interview go by without asking you about this. Like there's zero chance.
Oh, no. What is it?
Zero. Must
Okay.
ask Jordan about this. So about this podcast on the topic of Bette Midler and breakfast foods,
Mhm.
what was the name of your pod? And is there any chance that there's still recordings of that somewhere?
Oh my god. So it was called, For the Subtle and Discerning, Breakfast Foods and Bette Midler.
Well,
And, you know, straight to the point. Um,
right to the heart of it.
Always been a little neurodivergent and on the nose in this corner. So, why beat around the bush? Um, that was
Love
what
it.
we wanted to talk about. It was I pride myself on having invented the podcast, okay? I have no idea where these tapes are, and I tried going back to my dad's house and finding them, and, I found my old tapes of Mary Chapin Carpenter. I don't know, the things my parents gave me when I was 3 in the '80s. I could not find my Breakfast Foods and Bette Midler tapes. I don't know why my parents did not realize how important they were. But I'm not done looking because I know that they're somewhere. And I think they might be in the attic. They might have been destroyed, but I can tell you what was on them. I spent most of the time making up songs about pancakes.
Oh God, yes, please.
Yes. And I remember each episode had a different song about pancakes, Tim, and they were iconic. And
I would
I would
love this so much.
I know. I know. And you know what? If anyone can find them, I'll give you my father's address. No, I'm kidding. I I feel like my children need to hear this. Like, if they ever
Yeah.
question my sanity, it would be so validating to them, you know? And, I think I threw in a few songs about sausages, and
For good
then
measure.
for good measure, and then I would hold up my little Fisher Price microphone. Remember the little button that you push down? I would
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
hold it up to my dad's boombox and play his Bette Midler audio cassette tapes. So then it was like secondhand Bette Midler audio cassette, which is for the dogs. I mean,
I
audio
mean, if you're gonna
quality audio quality was not great.
well, yeah, but if you're gonna have secondhand Bette Midler, that's the way to do it.
It's the only way. At least it's raw, it's visceral. It's you can feel how much it mattered to me, in the grit. Yeah, and then I would sing along to it. So this was really something
This is gold.
special. Yeah. I
This
mean,
is gold.
there's something in it for everyone, I think. That was the last time that I really that was the last time that I knew my audience until my 30s. I think there was a big window in which I was like, "Wait, the things I like are weird? I'll try to be normal." And that didn't go great. And then by my mid-30s, after, took a few things like almost dying in childbirth, etc. And then I was like, fuck it. I'm just gonna be weird again. And we're that little girl is finally getting her moment.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and I'm
That
glad I'm finding my people, Tim. You're person number 1. Well, no, it's nerds. We're nerds. It's fine. We're in the
yeah.
nerd camp. We found our nerds, we found our people, we found our tent
Hmm.
city. Our tent city in the apocalypse, we're good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we can make
Absolutely.
shadow puppets and tell sad
Oh yeah.
stories and yes.
Uh-huh. It's when I was a kid, uh my brother went out and got a in the mid 80s boomboxes were really big,
Yeah,
and my brother was 6 years older than me. And so he had one boombox and he went out and bought a new one because he got a new job. And I remember like he was really big into hair metal at the time, like
of
bands
course.
like, Poison and Rat and Motley
Mm.
Crue and things like that.
Mhm.
And so his boombox was on one side of the room and I had mine on the other side. And I was trying to record every time he would do something. And I was like talking over top of it like I was the radio DJ. And I'm up next, we'll be listening to Motley Crue. Uh
Amazing.
this one might not be safe for the kids. It's called Girls, Girls, Girls. And they
Woo!
all look like girls because I was 8. To me, they all look like girls. So,
Oh, yes. They did all look like girls. You were not wrong. From the mouths of
so
babes.
but yeah, there's so I would love to be able to find one of those cassettes and be
Yeah,
able to hear what I was talking about, what I was doing, because I thought at that age I was gonna be a radio DJ or something along those lines. That's where my brain was, and I was like, and so I was practicing,
yeah.
because I knew that was a tangible job because I heard people talk on the radio all the time, and I'm like, well, that'd be a fun job. And then I found out you could basically go in sweatpants, and I was like, dude, done. Let's get that career.
Done.
So
Done. That's the other
yeah.
thing I love about voiceover. As a woman in, TV and film, I always had to, like, look nice.
Hmm.
And now with voiceover, it's like, to be honest, I do my best work when I have no makeup on and I'm in my pajamas. And
Hmm.
it's like,
Because
yeah,
you're
that's another
comfy.
a nerd quality, but it's like, don't stand between me and my art. I can't if I'm looking nice for you, I'm dying inside. Sorry. Not the kind
It's
of
a,
woman I am.
it's a subtle, slow death, but yeah, it's gonna
Mhm.
happen.
Yeah.
All
If
right.
I'm wearing mascara, you're not gonna get the best version of me. You're not.
Well, I think it's most important that you've recognized your limitations and how to work inside of them. So that's good.
Bull in a china shop chic.
Oh, perfect. All right. Yeah,
Mhm.
I think I need to have my daughter listen to this because she's gonna find a kindred spirit in you. So,
I
but
love her
yeah,
already.
yeah, she's pretty awesome. I like her. And crap, she's just gonna hear that now. All right. No, anyway,
Mhm.
love you, honey. Mwah. Daddy loves you. Anyway, all right. So Jordan, I I talked about earlier about what I like to ask people certain questions because I like to know what makes them tick and kind of where their brains at on certain things. So this question is along that same line, and I call it suggestion time. What are you reading or listening to that you think everybody else should know about?
Ooh, let me think. You know what? I've got this one book that I'm reading, Tim, and it's fabulous, but it's got nothing to do with anything we're talking about. I've got it right here. I'm looking at it.
That's fine.
It's called Okay, this is really nerdy of me, okay, because it's totally
Okay.
off topic. Actually, it's not off topic. Everything is about this. I take that back.
Nothing's off
It's
topic, so we're good.
Nothing is off topic. It's called The Practical Neuroscience of Buddha's Brain. So it's really called Buddha's Brain. The
Okay.
Practical Neuroscience of Buddha's Brain, Happiness, Love, and Wisdom. And you know what? I only just started it, but it's amazing. And it's basically looking at the scientific reasoning behind how someone like a Buddha or a Buddhist person finds and sustains a state of joy and peace in a crazy world.
Well, you check the box for crazy world, so that's good.
I thought you were going to say it checks the box for nerdy thing to say. I mean, I like,
No, 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 no.
oh,
I think
let's talk neuroscience now.
you might lose me on that one, but I'll do my best to hang with you.
I don't understand it either, Tim. All
All
I
right, good.
understand is if I do not finish this book and feel better, heads will roll. Okay. This is book 12. All right, we're still going. We're still
Hey,
going.
there you go.
I maybe should just meditate, but in lieu of that, my ADD has picked up another book about Buddhism.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah, I get that.
Results TBD.
I understand that. I have a shelf behind me of Ooh Shiny that'll make me feel better,
Yes.
and it just keeps growing and growing and growing. So,
Yes. Well, maybe
but
vibrationally, you're sort of taking it in through osmosis.
I can go with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, I
But
will,
you know what?
I'll look.
But honestly, I got into Buddhism, Tim, because of the Hollywood strikes. And I know that sounds like kind of loopy, but it's very interesting. We were talking about artists having kind of a spiritual calling anyway, even when things are going
Mhm,
great, having to get out of our own way, having to be in a state of surrender and flow. All of that is kind of intrinsic to being an artist anyway. But then when the a very fragile, very tumultuous industry we're in goes through a market upheaval
mhm.
and maybe even disappears, it's this whole other level where it's like you already had an unstable enough career, to the
Right.
point where everyone in your bloodline warned against you doing this, and it's like things were already tricky enough. The competition was already hard enough. The foundation was rocky enough. Even at the top of this business, even if you're doing great, you're gigging, and they were
Right,
talking
right.
about people at the start of the strikes, some of my favorite actors who are just phenomenal were saying, "Hello, I work paycheck to paycheck." And they were losing things. They were losing their
Mhm.
houses, not naming names, but just wonderful, wonderful
Yeah,
artists who everybody knows, household names. And
I'm familiar with a few that had gone through some similar things.
yes, so those are the people who are at the top of their game, who are getting dressed for red carpet events, Tim, who are sponsored, whose work is craved and
Mhm.
demanded. And those people, some of them felt that they lost everything. And so this was a
Yeah.
real call to self, and that's why I'm still into it. I feel like it's a work in progress. I may never get there, but I have tried to see everything that's been happening in town, um, as sort of a catalyst for my own. They
Mhm.
say in Buddhism that a lot of how we perceive the world, I mean, really, it all comes down to us, and everything is just holding a mirror. And I find that to be an exhilarating challenge, as a trauma survivor like you, as somebody who wants to make people feel a little better. I don't wanna be sulking and feeling miserable and spreading bad vibes in a time when that's really not gonna help. And,
Mhm. Yeah.
and so it's like I just keep reading these Buddhism books. I just keep reading them. It's like I'm determined to keep trying no matter how crazy things get. I can't see myself doing anything else with my life. This is what I love. I'm not going anywhere. I mean, at one point, Hollywood was literally burning to the ground. And I was like, well, I guess I'm sinking into the ocean with it because I know that I'm where I need to be. I'm not
Yeah.
leaving. I'm down. I'm going down. I'm going down with the mountains, man. And so
There
it's
you
like
go.
I've got to at least keep singing while I do it. And I'm trying to see this as the time in my life when I finally truly become happy because everything around me is so destabilized that I have no other choice than to surrender to these principles of unconditional joy and peace. And it's like, hey, we might as well. The
Mhm.
alternative is to panic like I did in the kitchen this morning. My husband could tell you all about that, but you know, but like 40% of the time, I know better. And that's all
Mhm.
we can do, you know?
That's all we can do. Very good. All right. Well, Jordan, we have reached a stage in this interview where I need to ask you our obligatory silly question.
Yay.
So it's not actually all that silly. I just like to call it a silly question because it's one of those. It's a question that got asked of our team member, Kathleen. Her and her daughter were out and about, and somebody asked this of her daughter, but not her. And Kathleen was like, "Well, that's rude. You should never age out of this." And I was like, "You're right. You should never age out of this." And I'm offended on your behalf. So that question is, Jordan Claire McCraw,
Mhm.
what is your favorite dinosaur?
Ooh, Ducky. Ducky from the land before time. Oh, Ducky.
I love it.
Uh, I'm sorry, I only know animated dinosaurs, and
That's okay.
those are the only dinosaurs I've met. And oh no,
Fair.
Petrie, maybe Petrie.
Hmm.
This is a toss-up. Petrie. What? Oh, mm, Ducky. Petrie. No, let's air Petrie because I got Petrie from Pizza Hut in the 90s when I cashed in my pan pizza from
Oh yeah.
reading books at school.
Bingo.
Yes. And that was back when you got legit toys. And I got like a full size. I'm
Hmm.
pretty sure that this was a realistically proportioned Petrie. What kind of dinosaur is Petrie? Like a
That's.
pterodactyl?
I think so. Yeah.
Well,
Because I think that's why they named it that was Petrie because of the PT and the
oh,
pterodactyl,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Oh, doink. That makes sense. Well, I don't know that this is like a full scale pterodactyl from Pizza Hut, but like toys were legit better, man. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
big enough. It was big enough. So my favorite dinosaur, Tim, is a Petrie, and and God bless his soul.
Alright.
What a weird way to end
So,
your podcast.
that's okay. We've ended it weirder, don't worry about that.
I'll keep
Uh,
trying. I'll try to find something
there
weirder.
we go. Yeah, honestly, so my favorite dinosaur is a, triceratops, and
Cute.
oftentimes I talk about Sarah from Land Before
Sarah.
Time. So
Yes. Shark tooth.
exactly,
Shark
exactly.
tooth. I air Sarah
So,
a little bit. I
yeah.
think it's like a personality flaw. I'm a little bit going and like poking it in the eye.
Mhm, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get that. Um, but I think that's part of the
She
reason why I
knows
liked
the
her is
way. She knows
mm,
the right way.
mhm.
She's
I
wrong.
think I liked her so much at that age because I was very much similar to that, where I was just going to do it because that's what I was right. There was, it was my way or the highway, and by golly, get out of my way because I have things that I want to accomplish. But yeah, and that was Sarah.
She's
So
not afraid. Yeah.
exactly. Although she was horribly afraid, actually.
She
So
was very scared. That's why we relate to her, Tim.
it is absolutely. Well, Jordan, thank you so much for being on the show today. Where can our listeners go to find out more about you, your work, and anything you've got coming up?
Well, they can connect with me on Instagram, at JC McCraw, MCCRAW, Jordan Claire McCraw on Instagram. And I try to post everything that I'm involved with on there. There are a few things I'm very excited about that are up and coming that I'm not able to talk about yet.
Excellent.
So if they want to stay in the convo, they can see me there. And then, it's like the usual boring places like IMDb.
Hmm.
Don't look me up on actually look me up on IMDb. Isn't there like a star meter or something every time someone looks
Hmm.
me up? I mean,
Yeah,
go for it, friends.
you be the star meter at, between you getting looked up and having things posted about you.
Oh, well, don't post about me. I find that terrifying. But look me up. What if everybody just Googles my name every day
There
for
you go.
30 days? Could that change
There
a
you go.
career in 2025? I think it might. But
It might be able to because it's definitely going to push you up the SEO scale.
yes. Yes. Community initiative. No, I think, Instagram is really where I do everything. And I would love to say that I was on Blue Sky or these other, I think I've been going through a weird sort of hermit era of like not really talking about stuff until I manifest it. You know what I mean? It's like I've
Mhm.
been laying kind of low, doing my art behind the scenes, and then once I've got something to share, bang, it's out there. And I do that on Instagram. And I've stopped sort of pontificating at the world for right now, and I'm trying to go inward. That's why this
Sure.
podcast is so cathartic, Tim, because it's just like all the noodles of my brain are just spilling out of my mouth right now, and it's such a joy.
Mhm. This scratches an itch for me way back there where it's like I can't nothing else in a way that nothing else does.
Oh yeah, this is so fun, because I think a lot of people right now actually are going inward and are reflecting on a lot of stuff, and it's just so
Mhm.
fun to come together.
Absolutely. I agree. All right. Well, I'll make sure that we put a link down in the show notes down below so people can check you out. I'll also put a link to your IMDb page. They can click it, and that will help drive you up the scale as well. Um,
Bada boom. Thank you.
absolutely.
Might as
So,
well.
and hey, guys, if you haven't already, now is a good time to remind you that following our show on YouTube is the most important and free thing that you could be doing today. It costs you nothing to follow us on YouTube. And that helps us make sure that we get more amazing guests like Jordan here today to have wonderful conversations with and give you moments of laughter to inspire you throughout the rest of your afternoon. So please consider following our show. It helps us more than I could ever begin to tell you. And be sure to go check out Jordan's work as well. She's got a lot of cool stuff out there, and I guarantee you guys are going to be happy that you did. Follow her on Instagram, check her out on IMDb. Let's drive her up the old star meter scale. And on that note, thank you to everyone for listening and or watching the FSF podcast. Thank you for Jordan to being on the show. And may the force be with you as you continue to live long and prosper. Goodbye.
Copyright 2024 FSF Podcast. Reference to any specific product or entity mentioned on this podcast does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by FSF Podcast. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. If you have any questions about this disclaimer, please contact us via email at info@fsfpodcast.com.